a little technical difficulty, but this is again another episode of the Kronos Group podcast. And for the topics that Jerry was alluding to right before we had that little technical difficulty, I went into the AI, and instead of just saying, "Hey, AI, give me a bunch of like business, fitness, trending topics," I don't want to just talk about what everyone else is talking about. So, what I asked the AI was to give me stuff that isn't just a rinse and repeat and is talked about on every other podcast across the business and health and men podcast centric world. So, one of the things that actually did come back that I'm interested to get your take on, Jerry, is the stacking income streams and the going deep on one. And so let me give you a little bit of context. It says with AI lowering the cost of starting anything, more people are running 3 to 4 small things instead of building one real company. From guys who have actually scaled something like you, Jerry, is that a diversification? Is that diversification or just expensive distractions?
I think that is mental retardation. And here's why. If you've never ran a business, if you don't know how to run a business, running a business is not easy. Starting a business is not easy. I push back. I think about this whenever I see it. And dude's like, I have 7 businesses. Unless you have a track record of running multiple businesses, first we have to define what a business is, right? If
That
you are a
baseline.
real estate agent, you're not running a business. If you are if you are online and you are trying to sell something, Shopify, that sort of thing, you are not a business, right? Uh, a business is you have risk that you take on, you have employees that you are using to do that, you have recurring revenues, you have customer bases, and it is dependent upon, again, the money coming out, the employees earning you money, and you keeping what's left over at the end. This is how I'm defining a business. Now, if you have that Shopify store, if you're doing some sort of drop shipping program, all of that, fine. But if you're a solopreneur, it's not a business. You are a solopreneur, you are in business, but it's not a business. I just want to define that. So when I talk about a business, I talk about, in my own example, at the same time, I owned car washes, gas stations, convenience stores, transportation company, financial business, a woodworking business. I was developing houses. I owned commercial real estate. I was building developments. I was remodeling homes, all at the same time doing $25 million a year. That is a business, a legit business, and multiple businesses all at the same time. If you don't have experience running one business, you can't run 3 businesses, and you should not be. Before anybody gets too excited, starts telling me about how I know this guy, you don't really know any guys, because on the internet, you can say and make it look like anything that you want to. A perfect idea, I used to push back on this and I just gave it up, is the dude would say, I did a business last month and it brought in $30,000. Look at what I did. And my question is always, oh, that's fantastic. How much money did you make? I don't care. If you brought in 30,000 and you spent 30,000, you don't have a business. That's zero. So this idea that revenue equals a business or sales equals a business is just not true. So we want to make sure that we define what a business is. But if you asked me, somebody is going to open a laundromat and then is going to go open a car wash and then is going to go open a gas station, I would tell you that's not the way to go about it. I would try to do one first, master that, get experience there, and then go to the second one, because 1 is hard, 2 is harder, and 3 and 4 and 5 gets exponentially more difficult. So stacking income streams is an internet influencer retarded term that no normal everyday human being should use, unless you want to waste 50 or 100 or 250 bucks on a program that one of these morons want to sell you, explaining to you how you too can do that. But look, if you want to have a lawn mowing business and you mow $25,000 a year worth of lawns, meanwhile, maybe you've got a collection or you've got a investment business of some sort, and you want to, you want to invest your own money and play the market and do that sort of thing, fine. And then if you want to have, a collections business where you're trading in collectibles, you get baseball cards, whatever it might be, and that maybe generates $10,000. That's good, but that's a hobby. That's not a business. And so I want to define truly what a business is. And my example, I've already given it. So in that context, I would say no, absolutely not. That'd be stupid. But 3 to 4 small things, we need to define small. What is small? Small is, again, $25,000 a year, $50,000 a year, $100,000 a year that you're making money at, that you can define that you're making money at, that you can show that you're making money at, and that it's worth the time. I don't mean making $5 an hour. I mean making money that's worth your time. Then I might change my the way that I look at it and say, okay, if you do that, add another one on top of it doing something else, add another one on top of it doing something else, that's great. But having businesses for the sake of having businesses, it just makes no sense. And that is what most people do. I have these conversations all the time. What do you do? I have 3 businesses. Okay, what are they specifically? And generally, they're never any businesses between the 3 of them. They're all things that are going to happen, quote unquote. I'm going to push here, I'm going to push here, I'm going to push there. And I always say, how about pick the one that you're best at and push on that one? And I think that ultimately answers the question.
Yeah, I would say that's a good response because I think establishing the business as a baseline and like what is that like that foundational definition of a business is misconstrued. To your point, in society, there is a lot of people that will say, "I own a business," but again, if it's a solopreneur and it's just a guy that's on an e-com on a Shopify store that's selling a bunch of widgets or a bunch of programs, that's not a business. That is essentially
Right.
a hobby that they're trying to scale. But if someone in kind of my shoes, being in their mid 30s or early 20s, and they're looking to become an entrepreneur and they want to do business, would it be a skill or an additional trial and error to try to scale your hobbies or try to scale a part of like an entrepreneurship business, like a solopreneurship, understand what's working, what's not working, and then go into business? Or would you say you just need to go headfirst into building a business?
I think that, look, having a hobby that you can maybe make a few bucks at, that's great. Why do you have the hobby? Do you have the hobby to make money, or do you have the hobby because this is what you like doing? If it's what you like doing, then you're limiting yourself to what you might be able to do better, right? Something that maybe you're better at, but you don't like doing as much. And then go do that thing that you're better at, that you can sell more of, that you can sell more of at a profit. And that profit, then take it back and go follow your hobby. So just because you like doing it doesn't mean it's a business. Just because you treat it like a business, unless it's making money, it's growing, it's generating an income that then you can live on or at least subsidize what you're doing, you're going to have trouble. That's just not the way to go about it from my perspective. There are very few people in this world that make a living doing things that they love. And you have to
Oh,
remember that. So the question then comes back to, what is your hobby? And is
hmm.
your hobby something that you're doing because you love doing it and you'd like to make a living out of it? Or do you have something that you're better at that you could sell, like I said, things profitably at, and then take that profit and follow your passion, if you will, or follow that hobby?
Gotcha. Okay. No, and that makes a lot of sense. And I think for this next topic, it kind of relays over to the boring business myth is collapsing, as the AI would say. So this whole buy a laundromat, hire an operator, manage it from a beach pitch is essentially that's been sold for years is getting publicly walked back, and even by the people who sold it originally. So, this idea that we've been hearing online of the passive income, buy a business. And I know, Jerry, you and I have had conversations about this where it's someone comes in, they see a laundromat or a car wash, and they're like, oh, great, I'm going to buy it. And then I'm going to have an operator come in and run the place. That's essentially the most backwards approach to what I've seen of an actual successful business. But again, on social media, that's how they paint the picture of you can make passive income. What is your take on this actually now coming to fruition where it's saying like, oh, these people that sold this idea is now being brought back, and it's like, it's not that easy. And as you said it this whole time, I want to kind of know what was your I know your initial approach to this, but what is your like thoughts about how to get out of this mindset and to build out a new mindset across social media, knowing it's not just going to be done by one person?
Yes, I mean, stop listening to social media is the reality, or find somebody on social media that is telling you the truth, and the truth is that if you think you're going to buy a new business and have someone else run it for you, you are not listening to the right people, or you're fooling yourself. And if you think that you're the one that's going to do it differently than everybody else, then you're just being dumb. That's just stupid, because that's not reality. Look, let me break it down for you. If you're going to buy a business, let's say you're going to buy that laundromat, and that laundromat, you got to pay $200,000 for the laundromat. You are paying a multiple 3 to 5 times that that laundromat's typically it's EBITDA income, earnings before taxes. Uh, uh, I'm blanking, before taxes, interest, depreciation. It's going to be the leftover money. Then they take however much money there is left over, net of those things, net of whatever money that the owners are taking out of it. That number is going to be, let's say you pay 200 grand for the thing. So let's say that that number was 50 grand a year, and you're paying a 4-time multiple on 50 grand a year, 200 grand. So you've got to pay that out over 5 or 7 years, depending on if you get a loan or you use your own money, but it needs to be over some amount of time. Let's say you're going to pay it out over 4 years. That means that to get the 200 grand back, the company's making 50 grand. You got to take the 50 grand and pay back that 200,000. So you're working for free for the next 4 years. Where does the money come from? Where does the money come from to do this? Where's the money come from to pay somebody else to run the business for you? Because you're paying for the business as if there is no manager managing the business typically. So laundromats are not full-time management. I get it, but there is no such thing as a passive income for a business. So to think that there is just, again, you're taking bad advice. But these things are sold to us because it sounds good to people who want out of their jobs, who want to become an entrepreneur. The idea that being an entrepreneur is sexy and it's fun, and you're going to live in the south of France 2 weeks out of every month, and you're going to work 4 hours a week, and the rest of the time is on a yacht, which is how it is portrayed to us on social media. It's just not the reality. It's just not the world. This idea that passive income is something that you just get and the checks show up, that's not reality either. Now, a laundromat is certainly not a full-time job. 100%. I agree with that. But it's a lot of time job, and it takes a lot of time job. And if you're going to buy one, it's a lot of job that you have to do, unless you have the money to just write a check for $200,000 and then put somebody in charge of the thing to go and run it for you. And then somehow there's enough money left over after they've done that for you to pay yourself back a little bit at a time. The argument could be made. Let's say that you pay somebody $25,000 a year. The thing's making 50. So then you're keeping $25,000. Well, $25,000 on 400 grand is what, 6%, 7% return. That's not a very good return given the 200,000 that you're putting out and the risk that you have. If there's a asset attached to it, like say it owns the land underneath of it, number one, you're not getting it for 200 grand. Number two, the deal gets that much harder to do at that point. But you get my point that there is never an easy business, passive income or not. Real estate is not an easy business, passive or not, whatever you want to call it. Passive just means it's not full time. It doesn't mean it's not no time. In fact, many times passive businesses can become a lot of time.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. That's usually the reality of the situation is it becomes more time than if you were actually paying attention to everything, because at that same point you're also missing a lot of stuff that you're not paying attention to because you're not there. I would
Right.
also want to say, Jerry, I think there is this idea of the passive income from a business that is completely backwards. But if you were to buy into a business instead of building a business, you're actually going to have to work twice as hard to make that profitable. And that's clearly what I'm hearing from you is like if you got a loan to buy the business, you bought the business, you're in $300,000, and then you have to make X amount of profit a month to even just pay back the loan. Now, that first 4 years, if you're barely skating by, you're just paying off the loan, you're not making any money. If you want to make money, well, now you got to pay attention to everything and what can you do to add on top of that laundromat. So, is it like services? Is it delivery? Is it like washing promotions and discounts in a club or whatever it is? Because at this point, I'm thinking if I own like something like a car wash, the car wash only makes money by cars going through the car wash. If it's like an automated car wash, you can buy the good scent sprays that you can spray in the car. You can make sure every car has a towel. There's good customer service. But again, you're not paying attention to the business. If anything, you're paying way close attention to every detail because now you got to make money.
Every business that you buy, the best return that you can do on that business is to grow the business. Many times, for the kind of businesses that we're talking about, let's say the average business, not the one you'd read about in the Wall Street Journal or in a magazine or hear out of some tech company, but real businesses like a laundromat. The best thing you can do is increase the throughput, increase the sales of that laundromat, because now every dollar, let's say the laundromat's doing $500,000 a year and you get it to go $550,000 a year, and it's got a gross profit on that extra $50,000 a year of, I don't know, 70%. That leaves you with 30%. That means that you just made $15,000 more that year. So instead of making 50 grand, you now made $65,000. 50 grand that the company was making when you bought it, a year later, 65 grand a year on your money. And so that, and again, that's just loose math to make my point. But in that context, you just made $15,000 for your work. So how much work are you going to put into it then to maximize those sales, that revenue number? Because you can only improve the bottom line for these businesses by improving the top line and making sure the margin flows through to the bottom, or you cut expenses. You operate more lean than the existing owner. And many times it's usually rare for me to find a business, particularly an operating company, that there's not 3 to 5 points of margin that are being missed in that business by the owner. So that's the two ways that you can get your return. You buy the business, you increase the sales, and then you keep the profit from whatever additional sales that you have. Obviously, minus the margin it costs you to operate and to fulfill those additional sales, or you cut expenses. So all of that takes work. None of that happens overnight. None of that's easy. All of that takes a whole bunch of work. Again, if you are the idle rich and you want to buy something like that and you can write a check for 200 grand, the circumstances are somewhat different, although really not that much, because you'd still like that $500,000 a year uh, laundromat to become a $650,000 or $700,000 or $800,000 a year laundromat, because that's how you're really going to make your money. I think that is the way to look at this. So when you buy something, get ready to jump in with both feet, because realistically, that thing, even if it were a laundromat, should eat up an inordinate amount of your time to make sure that you get your money.
Yeah. So, in the current state of the economy, it's 2026. There's small businesses, there's medium size, and there's large corporations. Would you, given this certain area of life that we're in right now and the economy and what different tax laws and legal things, would you recommend if someone were to go into business to build their own business or look at businesses out there, see what's working, what's not working, see one that maybe is probably listed for decently a good price because they haven't been able to sell it for a while, or there's something wrong that you can fix in it? I know there's a lot of different nuances, but as a whole, would you recommend younger people that are looking to get into business to build their own from the ground up, or see if there's existing ones out there that they can improve upon with an established like process or service that is already provided?
I read somewhere, I think this is true, that there are every day 10,000 baby boomers retiring. And that means that there is orders of magnitude number of business. Now, they're not all business owners, but you're talking hundreds of thousands, if not millions of businesses that are for sale out there right now. You definitely, given the opportunity, need to go buy a business before starting one from scratch.
Mhm.
So, buying a business gives you history, it gives you a foundation. You're not having to build a foundation. The foundation's already there. It gives you infrastructure, right? Processes, procedures, operations, things of that nature. Typically, you'll have some sort of sales facility in place to make sales and customers to go talk to. It's going to have a website, typically. It's going to have advertising already in place. It's going to have logos. It's going to have letterhead. All these things that you need to operate a business are going to be in place. That is valuable. And so it's going to have cash flow, although the cash flow is going to be minimal because, again, a good operator is going to look to maximize the return on his business by selling it to you at the best multiple he can get. But that isn't to say that there aren't deals out there. And a deal might just be something that cash flows for you, lets you make a little bit of money off of it while paying back what you had to invest in it, and or you just happen to have money sitting off to the side. You sold a house, something along those lines. You want to take the 400 grand and dump it into a business. Absolutely do that, and then pay yourself back out of that business. Absolutely do that all day long. That is 1,000 times better than starting a business from scratch. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to go into business, 1,000 times out of 1,000, go buy yourself a business. Go fight. Doesn't take money though. Money's not what's going to stop you generally. Find the deal you want, then go find the money. That's the other trick that people don't understand. Find the deal you want and then go find the money, because there's a million and one ways to structure deals, particularly when you have a boomer that is retiring and wants out of the business. There is a million and one ways to do business. Some people require pay me in cash, all of it up front. Some of them are happy to carry. You don't, I mean, there's just some of them will carry on the business, but you got to buy the real estate, which is 1,000 times easier to do. Real estate loans are a lot more easily accessible than a goodwill asset purchase where you're just buying the business, as an example. So there's all kinds of ways to do this, but you want to find a business and buy one way before you ever think about starting a business.
Do you think, based off of buying a business instead of building your own, that there is not enough education out there within the main forms of how education is shared throughout the US for young people to realize how, I wouldn't say easy, but easier it is to go out and buy a business? Because someone like myself, when I went to go buy my first house, it's $380,000. And I'm like, where am I going to get $380,000? And then it's like, oh, there's mortgages, there's loan companies, there's all these ways that you can get the money to put your feet in the front door and live in that house. I
Mhm.
think for a business, because of the complexities, because you're not physically living there, you haven't owned it outright yet, or you're still like working on trying to find a place to live. It's a different frame of mind and like mindset for buying a business and seeing a business that's listed for 500 or $600,000, and you're like, who's going to give me a loan? Where do I go? How do I even start this process? So what do you do? Well, if you're someone like me or younger, you're like, oh, I look at AI and I'm like, oh, I'll build an AI tool and I can start a business with AI and I can do this because it seems a lot more incrementally like right in front of you than
Yeah.
the obstacle of a $600,000 business that you're like, I don't even know where to start. And it's
AI,
honestly just the latter approach of that, connecting those dots.
I'm not sure what I think I got lost on your question there, but I'll just say that AI is a mirage
Mhm.
relative to business owners and small business owners in particular. It's a mirage. I know it's not a mirage in what it does and how it works and what its capabilities are and how it's going to change everything about everything that we do 100%. But I said this last week, I'll say it again this week. I have been alive now through every one of these revolutions, and every one of these revolutions, technologically speaking, everyone always felt like you were getting left behind and you were missing something. And also, there was 100 people trying to sell you how to take advantage of these new technologies who never did that themselves. So when you see, and this is the power of social media, you see these videos, and this dude's like, I make $100,000 a month, and I don't even create any of my own videos, right? I just put these videos. This one guy, just Ravi, I think is his name, Ravi, and his videos. I just can't get away, no matter much I try to unfollow this dude. I just can't get away from the videos where he's talking about I make $20,000 a week and I don't ever make any of my own videos. Let me show you how. Anytime you hear, let me show you how, the chances are you're going to get something that doesn't have the value that you think it does. I'm not going to call it a scam because there's always somebody somewhere that's done it this way. But the reality is that this thing is already very difficult to do. And if you can build this thing, whatever it happens to be, using AI faster than somebody else can, well, that's called competition. That's called, if one dude can do it, 1,000, 100,000, a million dudes can do it. And so, this idea that AI is going to magically manifest a business for you that you can run is just not true, because if that were, everyone would be doing it, and everyone's not doing it, and there's not some secret system behind it. Everyone's got, I make fun of Tom Vu was his name, anybody can look it up, and I think it was VU, but he had he used to run ads in the 80s and 90s when television was about to turn off, and he had these ads that he bought the time for cheap. And he had an amazing money making system. And I believe he ended up going to prison like all of them did. And it sounded so good that you listened. He spoke about it so well. He wrote about it so well. He encouraged you to do it so well. He convinced you that if you didn't do this, you were going to miss out. Well, these hucksters have been around since time immemorial. And the reality is always different than what it is sold to us or what we see on the videos. So they are playing to your need to go and indulge and be a part of, and you're going to be missing out on the ability again to live in the south of France while you only work 4 hours a week. And that is just their way of selling you something that they know has no value. But if they sell enough of those things to you and to many like you that have no value, well, they're the ones making the money. So AI is not going to magically make anything easier. If anything, AI is going to make things like becoming an entrepreneur more difficult in many ways, because it's going to the playing field so that you don't have to go out like I did and learn how all these things work. You can simply ask a question.
Yeah. No, and that's the AI push is just insane across social media. And with this kind of mindset of falling into this social media trap, I believe there's also now in society, because there's so much content out there, it's consumed so much every day, that people see through the fake. They see through the cut, rinse, repeat, and it just looks the same. The topics are the same. And again, back to our original point of starting the podcast with these interesting topics, I had to tell the AI to not give me a top of the line trending topics around business for this month, because what
Mhm.
is it going to do? It's going to give me that by default. And if you want to stand out, just do your own thing, tell your own story. And I would say to you, Jerry, I know with your social media and me working with that on with your brand, your story is so unique because you are the one who lived it, not anyone else.
Mhm.
And if for business owners out there, if you're like, I want to build a business and I'm going to document this journey, if you're thinking that you're going to get so many videos out, you're going to talk about all the trending things, you're going to do all the styles, the trends, and that's going to blow up virality, you're sorely mistaken, because people see through that now. And I know for myself, if I see it, it actually gives you the option to say, not follow or don't show me content like this. And then you can literally click it and it will just erase everyone that has that same topic, that same hook, that same style. And it just feels like garbage now. Like I don't even scroll on social media much anymore unless I get a notification of like someone commenting on something, because half the stuff I'm consuming, I know is just not realistic when it comes to entrepreneurship and building a business.
You
And
got to
so,
remember, AI AI is to building a business and becoming an entrepreneur what a trainer is to your health, what a dietitian and a trainer is to your health. And that is to say that you can have all of the information in the world. Your trainer can tell you how to train, how to work out, how to lift weights. Your dietitian, nutritionist can tell you what to eat, why to eat it, when to eat it, how much of it to eat. But you got to do the work. So the AI can tell you what to do, it can't do it for you. The AI can tell you what to say, it can't say it for you. The AI can tell you what to build, but it can't build it for you. The AI can tell you how to sell it, but it can't sell it for you. So the reality is that the AI will tell you how to lift a weight, but you ain't going to get jacked unless you go lift a weight.
mm, yeah, no, and that's very true. And there is this idea of, if I can get and tap into this network, that it will produce all these amazing results for me. Well, again, that's not AI. AI is a tool, but someone has to wield that tool. It can't just create its own existence and create its own economy and system with no input from us. And so, if you are someone who uses AI, like Jerry and I, use it to your advantage, but don't depend on it like it's giving you the final answers for everything within life. Because I
Yeah.
know a lot of young people will have their AI as like their friend, quote unquote. And I'm like, this is scary, because now you're talking to a machine that doesn't feel emotion, doesn't understand the situations of life. And now young people are turning to this AI because, one, they don't know how to have conversations with other people in real life. They don't know how to have hard conversations or conversations of rejection and mistakes made. They would rather not make a mistake and just talk to this AI because it's playing it safe. And I'm interested to see, Jerry, and maybe for you as well, within the next 10 to 15 years, as AI continues to develop, it continues to get smarter, there's more enhancements, there's more tools, there's more abilities to utilize with it, that we start to see this change within human culture of people actually engaging each other, having hard conversations, building businesses with other people compared to just building businesses with one or two people and then no employees and everyone's an AI agent. How is that going to affect kids in the next society? How is that going to affect relationships 20 years down the road, where people are just not having those conversations, which is why we built the Kronos Group, because it's a peer to peer with real business owners. It's not AI Jerry 24/7 with a bunch of business owners. It's real Jerry with real business owners. And I think there's going to be a gap within society over the next 10, 15 years if we don't continue to connect as humans and really have debates, conversations, and work together, compared to, I don't want to mess up, I'm too scared. It's a soft feeling. And that's what we've also talked about, is just a soft culture. It's just going to get worse with AI, because that soft is now given the AI the ability to come in and kind of save the day, so to speak, because it's the safe way around.
Yeah, I think to the look, I'm guilty with the AI, this metamorphosis, this transformation I've done with my body over the last 4 months is pretty significant. And I did that with the AI. I use the AI for all of my lifts, all of the reps, every exercise I do, when I exercise, every mile I do, how much I drink, exactly what I eat. The whole thing is in a project planned out. I talk to it all day long. And when I start hitting milestones, in particular, the significant milestones, 229 pounds as an example, 224 pounds. And then when the I found myself when the AI did not react excitedly enough, I was pissed.
You want to punch the computer.
Yeah, like my feelings were hurt, and I remember standing at the gym going, Did I just have this whole interaction in my own brain? This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's like get rid of the words please and thank you and can you and will you and all of these things that we do normally. I had broken my habit of doing that just because that's, again, I'm programmed to communicate that way. But with the AI, there's nothing back there. There's no reason. You're not going to hurt its feelings, so there's no sense asking nice for anything, right? You just ask it. And so I think understanding what's behind it, and also understanding that AI is a narcissist creating machine. That is what its primary goal is, I think. Uh, or let's say, if that's not their goal in putting it together, certainly the outcome that's happened, because you have to straightforward tell the AI, do not turn me into a narcissist. Do not agree with me on everything. Do not work with me on everything. Push back against me on things you don't agree with. If I ask you a question, I want the opposite answer, not the answer first. I want you to be confrontational. I want you to be we want to have arguments, not necessarily conversations. And so you want to make sure that you don't build a narcissist machine, and you build a machine that has value. But again, you're not going to get there in business. I've yet to see anything come out of AI that I could just put out into the market and go to work with. As Matt knows, we're building a playbook on a sub seven figure business, from 0 to 7 figures, and then another playbook from $1,001 to on up. And the first one I did, 0 to a million. I mean, the AI wrote it up. It knows me inside and out. The AI described it correctly. The AI formatted it in a way that was prettier than I could have done. It gave me 17 pages of information in a way that would be palatable to people, but so it looked good, but none of the information was right. None of the information was me. It was my way of thinking, but it was clearly written by an AI. It didn't sound like me. It didn't look like me. And a lot of it wasn't correct. In fact, probably 80%. Did it have a basis in being correct? Did it have parts of it that were right? And then the most of it, I could see how it would have thought what it did. Yes. But then it still doesn't make it right. It still doesn't make it my words, still doesn't make it my experience. And then a good 20% of it was just wrong. Just 180 degrees the opposite direction was wrong. And so I would say the 100% of the thing was wrong. I had to rewrite every single word of that document. Now, it saved me tens of hours, but it
Mhm.
still took me hours and hours and hours to get it done, because it's not smart enough to do that yet. So it saved me time, 100%, tens of hours. So it turned, let's say, a 20 or 30-hour project into a 6-hour project, but it still took me 6 hours. And then Matt and I had to redo it 5 times and had to feed it back through to get it formatted correctly and to get it to look right 5 or 6 times. And now, as we've going through all of the things we've built over the last 6 months, now we're going through and redoing all of those again, because you look at it and go, even though I did that process with that, it still looks too much like AI. Or I have a better idea of who I am, what I'm doing, what we're trying to sell, what's going to resonate. What's my opinion on things? How do I want to get those opinions out there? So we have to scrap that whole thing and rewrite it. And so AI is not a no work project, not even close. It is a tool like anything else.
Yeah. And I was going to say, Jerry, the business itself is essentially what you're alluding to right now. Of AI is a tool, just like a business can be a vehicle to get you from point A to point B within your entrepreneurship and your ownership of a company or a business. But it requires a ton of work. You might have trucks, but those trucks need drivers. You might have a great CRM software that saves you tons of money and it can cut down on these expenses. It can find this stuff, but someone has to spend and someone has to enter that stuff in. It can pull it from different websites, but someone has to go in there and tell the AI to connect stuff. And I think the thing that I've been building with Claude, especially with Anthropic, it has all of these connectors. But again, unless I go in there as the human, spend time, think through this situation of like, okay, if I want this platform to speak to this platform and it needs to do this, I'm spending my own time, my own mind and energy and power thinking through what I'm about to tell the AI to connect and actually do, I would say, the grunt work of building this out. So it's the same with the website. It's the same with the Kronos group. It's your experiences, it's getting business owners having conversations, and the more people, the more cohorts that we fill, the more business owners that are in these communities, it's going to be contributing into an AI tool. And that AI is only going to get smarter, just like what you said when we first started this. The wet landing pages were kind of essentially the rough edges, the foundational layer of the Kronos Group and Jerry Brazy and your brand. But over time, now that we put in all this other work, we've done all these other revisions, we're going back to those original pages and we're like, this is close, but it's not that close that we first thought it was. When we first
Mhm.
saw it and we had nothing else like it, well, it's great because it exactly looks like we want it to look like. It says what we want to say. But then as you work harder and harder and you dig into the business and you continue to pour in that value, that sweat equity, that time and commitment, then you start to see things that you can make better. You can improve processes, you can improve technology, you can improve employee retention, but that only starts with you actually doing the work from the get go. It's not just going to miraculously, like you said, AI is just going to solve all my problems or eliminate all my problems.
Right.
A
Right.
human has to interact with it.
Yep. Yep. I
Well,
agree.
I would say honestly, Jerry, I think this is a great episode. I don't know we have to go much longer, but as far as the buying a business compared to starting your own business approach, if someone that was young in the forge was to come to you and say that they're building out, and this is hypothetical, a online company and they're going to do this, they have an idea, they have an approach, they've thought through what they want to do and now they're starting to go through that stuff. Would you encourage them to look at it differently and try to go out and buy a business? Or would you say, hey, continue that path, gain those experiences, learn from the mistakes, and then down the road, if you really want to be an entrepreneur and an actual business owner into going and buying a business out there, now you have that kind of preliminary entrepreneurship skills or the scars to prove it. I'm not saying it's an actual business owner scar, but just the chops for entrepreneurship. Would you encourage them to keep going that route, or would you say, hey, go this route, but if you actually want to go all in, then you need to look at either buying a business and seeing what you can actually grow from an actual company compared to a hobby slash solopreneurship?
I was running a business from 24 to 28 for somebody else. So I got a lot operationally. I knew how to run a company operationally. I didn't know anything about finances. I didn't know about any financials. I didn't know anything about cash flow. I didn't know anything about how the back office administrative part of hiring worked, getting rent, paying for a building, getting vehicles. I didn't know how any of that worked. So this idea that you have to have some amount of resources, you have to have some amount of experience, just isn't true. It's better to have experience. It's better to have worked 4 or 5 jobs and seen how an entrepreneur, a business owner, the boss operates that thing, and ask a ton of questions and gain experience and fill your hard drive, and then go jump 100%. And you're probably going to have a better chance buying an existing business after you have worked in them for a while and gotten that exposure and been smart enough to ask the questions and gain that experience. Full stop. But I was an idiot. I knew nothing about business when I started my business. So if I did it, anybody can do it because I had a secret weapon, and that's a work ethic. So I had a secret weapon, and that was uh, some common sense. And I had a third secret weapon, and that was some street smarts. So when you take a work ethic that is inhuman, let's say, which I do, and you combine that with street smarts and common sense, uh, and I suppose throw in the ability to risk and to sacrifice, and then, like I said, to work. Well, then you can jump at any time if you're willing to do that. If you're willing to shut up and listen and learn, and you're 24 years old and you want to buy a business, do it. Jump. It's an existing business. If it fails, you're 27, 28, 30 years old. Who cares? And you can learn the things you need to learn by joining groups like the Kronos group, joining other groups that can help you along. That's what happened with me when I was 28 years old. So, yeah, I mean, you're better off having more information 100%. But if you think like you want to go or having more information and experience, but if you think you want to jump and you're 25 years old and you're not sure what to do, reach out. I'm happy to help you. But the reality is, it's not what you know, it's what you're willing to learn and what you're willing to do. And
Mhm.
hard work will beat education and experience every single time. And I have proved that because I'm an idiot kid from the streets that has bought and sold and built a dozen businesses and done almost $500 million in revenue. And I didn't know what an interest rate was when I was 22 years old.
So true. No, and honestly, Jerry, I'm glad that we got back to this kind of core foundational value within being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, taking that risk. It really comes down to not, like you said, what you know or how much education or how much research and discovery and using tools to get all this extra information and to have the perfect plan. Because in reality, it just takes a mindset and a sick work ethic to apply yourself and fail often. Fail as much as you can because that's where you're going to learn foundational things that education, AI, and tools on the internet will never show you because you
That's
got to
right.
pull it from your internal in who you are. And so I think that's also the core foundation piece that I would love to be able to, and I know we're going to continue to pour into in the Forge and in our school community, but guys in there, they need to believe in themselves. And the problem is that they don't. And a lot of them will get in their own head or they'll go to online, they'll go to the social media account,
It's
they'll see this
because they're
influencer.
told it's because Dave Ramsey and his ilk have screwed it up for everybody, telling them not to risk, telling them to be careful. We live in a feminized society, and by that I mean not that women are bad. I mean that they are risk averse, and this society is risk averse. There are no more men out climbing mountains, out swimming the rivers, out digging holes into the ground to find what is out boring tunnels, if you will. There are no more men like that, like there used to be. And so men need to tap into who they are. Men need to go back to their caveman roots. Men need to stop listening to social media. They need to stop listening to culture. They need to stop listening to men and women who are telling them to ignore who they are inherently and to go out and to hit that pterodactyl over the head and drag it back for their family. And if you die doing it, you die like a man. You die going down in a fight. If you start a business and it fails, man up, come back and do it again. Because the benefit is going to far outweigh the benefit of success is going to far outweigh any amount of sacrifice or risk that you took. But conversely, the benefit of a loss, of a failure, of a bankruptcy, of driving it into the ground is going to be 10,000 times more valuable than anything you would do sitting behind a desk. We men are made to go out and create and forge and push and explore and risk and sacrifice for not only ourselves, but for everybody else. And we have lost that. We need to get that back. All of us do. It is inherent in who we are. And understanding that it is okay to failure, not only just okay, but it is the basis for every part of growth that you're going to have. It is a steroid, it is a human growth hormone to fail. So you can go through life normally, or you can speed that stuff up on its way, get the failure out of the way, realize that it's not going to kill you. Not only is it not going to kill you, but like a broken bone, it's going to come back stronger. It sucks when it breaks, it's painful to recover from, but ultimately, that thing is stronger. And that, my friends, that men is what it means to be a man. for me. So if you're sitting there telling yourself this isn't for you, well, then you are going against your basest instincts and you know it down deep in your brain. It's why we sit there eating Oreos, getting fatter on the couch, doing what everyone tells us to, because it's easy. We've been brainwashed and we're ignoring our own self preservation. And there is no reason to it. We are warriors, men. It is in you to be a warrior. I don't mean go out and knock somebody over the head. I mean go out and slay life and risk and push and go get for yourself. Go out and try and achieve. That's what being a man is. The sitting around playing video games, smoking pot is a loser's mentality that you have been convinced is the way things are. That's just the way that it works. And there's no operation, no opportunities, and there's no chance because the rich have everything and the poor get nothing. You are not poorer than I was. There's no way. You've not had a harder life than I did. You are not sicker than I am. You've not had more setbacks than I did. If I did it where I grew up with this absence of all information, and today you have every piece of information right here in your hands, it is illogical for you not to improve your lot in life. And I'm going to just add with this, if you are so inclined to follow that advice that I just gave you, it is going to put you into a rare territory. When I was younger, more people were hungry. More people were pushing. There was more men clamoring for everything because we judged each other and failure was judged and looked down on, and you didn't want any part of it. And you were held accountable by culture and society in a way that today you are glamorized for being an effing loser that sits there and gets nothing done and takes money from the state. You're a sucker if you're not getting paid welfare benefits and unemployment benefits and free food and all of these other scams. You're an idiot if you're not putting in the effort to try to work and just expect it to come to you because you buy a bunch of $25 programs on the internet and hope to get rich quick. Life is not get rich quick. Life is go out, work hard, slay something, drag it back, eat it, get up the next morning and do it all over again. That's what the Kronos Forge is, by the way. Y'all ought to go check it out.